Okay, welcome back to all the benevolent awakening souls who are interested in hearing my inspirational timeline story of my awakening. I am going to be continuing the breakdown of my timeline, my truth, my story, my testimonial. And again, this is going to be an hour or less. I'm going to try to make it quick, but you're going to notice everything about my story. There's really nothing quick. So, and like I have learned throughout this process, there was so much awesome information coming at me from my higher self. And when I didn't realize it in the beginning and was able to see it, I'll be connecting all that. So for those of you who have not seen my complete timeline, there's two different videos where I break down the full 27 years, 47 in total, but 27 where, my door was getting knocked on to try to wake up. So anyways, oops, sorry, things keep popping up here. Pardon me. So, okay, I am going to start about between 8 and 9 years ago now. I am moving back to a state I had lived in previously by myself to what I think is to finally start my healing without any interruptions, or so I think. And without, the life's obstacles getting in the way to try to hold me down and not let me move forward and become the light that I am. So, I moved back and remember, well, if you've seen the timeline, you'll know. Well, I'm going to skip over that part. There was this whole moment of when I moved back into the state, because of a revenge plot plan from a previous person, a previous psychopath, a previous narcissist that I was mingling with, we'll just say. There ended up becoming a felony fraud charge that was put upon me that was not about me, but it was part of what happens. And this is what I am going to be breaking down within this video is scammers, revenge plans, sweetheart scams, romance scams, con men. And this is what this one is going to be about, gang stalking, because this is going to really cover my 3 years that I went through to have that experience. And it was, again, something my soul contract I chose to experience prior to coming into this lifetime. Or this, particular life experience. So, I found that out right away, which, put me in jail for 7 days of the first 7 days back into the state, that I had tried to go into. I want to back up a quick minute because this was now going to be the first of 8 years of trying to have a hiatus from my family, realizing that I needed to get away if I was going to heal and if I was going to find out who I was and become my authentic self and expand and ascend. And I just want to note that that's not an easy decision. Even when you come from a dysfunctionally toxic, narcissistic, emotionally immature family, which I didn't know any of that about my family. I just knew that they weren't like anyone else. And I knew that my life was harder, compared to all my friends parents, always felt bad for me. Just in a lot of different things. So I only mention these types of things because if you had heard this sort of, talk at you or towards you, then this will resonate with you. Ish. So anyways, I had, found that out. I ended up it took me 3 days of the full 7 days in jail, of not knowing what this charge was about, because again, I didn't do this. And this is one of the things that happens when you get scammed, is once they have your information, they're going to sell it on the dark net, and people are going to attempt to use it and do criminal activities. And that's basically what happened with me, is that people had been, they had it for about 5 years. So, yeah. And so, anyways, I got set up on a felony fraud and was now facing like 2 to 6 years in prison, which I was not happy about because I had never spent any major time in jail. So, nor did I have any felonies on my record. So, I was not happy about that. But had worked something out with the prosecution that I was eventually going to be able to get that charge dismissed as long as I completed my probation. And so I agreed to that because I didn't have enough money to purchase my own lawyer at the time. And I only could afford, I could only afford free, which was the public defender. And he had a lot of cases. And basically he said to me, it's 50-50. It's your word against theirs. And so you have that jury. It's up to the jury to decide if they want to believe you. And I didn't want to leave that decision up to people I didn't know as far as my life and being able to be put away like that. With this deal that I was taking, I didn't have any jail time and I was just going to do probation and then eventually get that charge completely off my record. So that was the plan. So now I'm in the state. I'm going back to this state because there was a particular Eastern Chinese medicine school that I had wanted to go to get my master's in their intuitive psychology program. I previously had my bachelor's degree in marketing education, and but had been, because of the situation and the things that I had uncovered and the generational traumas and curses that I had uncovered about my family up until that point, really felt being called to psychology. Also, at that point, I had already dated somebody who was diagnosed and not diagnosed as extreme manic bipolar for on and off for 10 years, and did a lot of deep diving into understanding that side of the mental illness. Little did I know that there was bipolar on my mother's side of the family at that point. So, the goal was to get going back into school, and then I had wanted to start my own therapy on myself to attend to my childhood wounds, attend to all these dad issues that I knew existed. I wanted to be sure that I didn't that I could find out who I was finally for the first time. I wanted to, find my authentic self, since I was never allowed to be that. And that was the goal. And again, doing this completely void of my family. They were over 1,000 miles away from me. And at this point had no idea where I was. So, I want to just side note that a quick second. When somebody makes a decision like that, you don't do it and you're excited about it, even when you have a dysfunctional family that you don't really understand that they're as dysfunctional as they are, because they're harming you. Because that's all you know. You just know what you're growing up with, right? So I want to throw this out there that was not an easy decision to try to do this this really big endeavor, this really big journey on my own without them. But the reason that I had made that decision was because I tried doing it with them for 15 years and constantly was asking my mom and my dad for help. Mom, I'm experiencing depression. Can you help me? And then she would just gossip, and now I understand why, because narcissists, that's what they do, is they gossip. Also mentally ill people, that's what they do, is they gossip. But also she was unhealed. If she was helping me, that meant she would have to help herself. And she was in no place to do that. And I didn't understand that at the time. All that I knew is that one step forward of trying to heal around them was like 10, 15 steps back. So I needed to try something else. If I was to, you know, try to live the life that I wanted to live, which was finding unconditional love, learning how to love myself so that I could love others in the way that I was never loved. Hopefully, learning how to love myself and not acquire the anger traits, the shame and guilt traits from my mom and dad, all those traits that I hated coming on to me, but knew that it was unconscious on their part, knew that they weren't meaning to do it. And that was why I knew I needed to reach out for help, is because I know my mom and dad loved me in their own way, even though I never heard it until I was 14 years old, and maybe as many times as one time on a hand throughout my whole life. But I also understand that the reason they didn't know how to love that way is because they didn't receive that love. And again, this is where the generational curse, the generational trauma thing comes into play. And then once I knew that there was incest on my dad's side of the family, that was the other thing, is even though I hadn't, in my awareness, had anything happen to me inside the family. There was stuff that happened outside of the family, babysitters that I was left with when I was younger and things like that. However, there was tons of verbal and mental abuse and physical abuse up until, high school, a couple times after too, but by my dad mostly, and my mom, but she would just mostly slap me across the face. And it could get a little bit harsher with my dad. So I knew I needed this work, and it was something that I just knew that I didn't know how to handle. I didn't understand at the time. I was a highly sensitive person. I didn't know yet that I was empathic. I'm going to be learning these things here shortly. I definitely didn't understand that I was an intuitive, and I absolutely was not listening to my gut, my inner self. I had shut that off. This was a survival tool I had to learn because I got in trouble when I listened to my higher self. So I learned how to shut that off, as well as my creativity. So there was so much. Basically, I was learning how to live as Control Alt Delete. Start over. I had to learn how to live all over again. And I didn't even know that when I first started this, 8 to 9 years ago. I just knew that there was a lot of work. So I attend, I'm working through this probation stuff, and then I start researching this school. I'm seeing at the time that it had the option to have scholarship. Well, obviously all schools have scholarships, but student aid, because I just didn't have enough money at the time to be able to pay for it. So I was going to try to go that route, and had my previous student loans in good standings. So I was able to try to utilize that, and was on my way to do that. Had, gotten a job, that, like a serving job somewhere, that I was just going to, have as some money to come in so that I could live and have all this extra time to heal and go back to school. That was the plan. And then I met the scammer, the con man. And what this is called, after I looked it up and did a lot of research on all this is what's called a romance scam or a sweetheart scam. And so I met this guy one night, and this is when I was still drinking. The plan was to, phase out my drinking. At that time, again, see, I still didn't think I had to stop drinking. And I also didn't yet understand why I had used alcohol in the past, so this will come out through therapy. So anyways, so it was like, so it was like 5 months that I had been in the state, and I meet this guy, and we hit it off right away. And he basically moved right in with me. Here's some of the signs. He was a heavy equipment operator, or so he said, that had lived in a different state, had was just going through a divorce, or had gone through a divorce and had 2 kids with the previous wife. He told me he was 5 years younger than me, and that typically he was just kind of hopping from hotel to hotel. And so that's why he kind of just moved himself right into my house that I was staying in. I was staying in an Airbnb at the time. Me and my cats, me and my 2 cats at the time. So he, everything was great. And then 2 weeks, in fact, it was fabulous. Like, it was like, oh my God, this could potentially be the guy that I'm going to settle down with, right? He was grooming me at the time, and I didn't know that term back then. So, he's gonna butter me up. He's gonna love bomb me, and that's what was happening. He was love bombing me like crazy. And I just thought he was the best. Like, I was not looking at the time. In fact, I told him that, but he saw me as a hard target. He could see that I was vulnerable in the ways that I was an empath. He could see that I was very easily manipulated or manipulatable. He could see that I was very naive, so trusting. I was one of those people at the time that was like, you know, I made mistakes in my past. I had DUIs, and so I tried not to judge other people because I didn't want people to judge me. You don't do that. We think that that's the right way to go, but that's not the case because, not everybody and that's not necessarily true. A lot of people who have healed that are empathic and intuitive, highly sensitive people have dealt with addictions, that's how we numb out, right? That's how we numb out because of all the pain that we're feeling from being in survival mode our whole life and not being able to be who we are and not being so disconnected from our higher selves. That's the only way that it, doesn't hurt so much to live, right? So when, so it was a couple of weeks in to us, dating that I got a gut feeling. I remember it. I'll always remember it to this day. I remembered it right as I was thinking about it. After all this had happened, I was like, oh my God, my higher self was trying to tell me, and it was something, that if I had boundaries for myself, which I had none, and he obviously knew that. If I had had any type of moral ethics, like um, just, love for myself, which he saw I didn't. So again, that made me a very easy target. And as narcissists and psychopaths, anybody on the antisocial spectrum, if you're somebody who is the highly sensitive, the empath, you have a big target on you if you are unaware of this for yourself. If you're too trusting, if you're that person that's like, I'm just gonna give them a chance, like they see that and they're just like, bing, 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 like jackpot, and that's what I was for him. He saw me and was like, money pit right here. So, I didn't know this at the time, obviously. So, I'm thinking I found the love of my life. And he, so like I say, it was the first 2 weeks in, and then it continued. My higher self, my gut was, constantly trying to get my attention for the next 7 months because it was a total of 7 months that him and I dated. Now, what I find out is through this time, he would start fights during like things like his birthday, holidays. Like we'd be laughing, talking, hanging out. He'd go to the bathroom, come back, and all of a sudden he's angry at me, yelling at me, telling me, "How dare you talk about my kids that way?" What? We weren't even talking about your kids. You know what? Fuck you. Sorry. But I'm leaving. And then he'd leave for, 2 days, 2 weeks, you never knew, and no contact. But what I eventually learned was that was his way. He would just start fights during these moments because he wanted to be back with his family, his real family. And this real family, by the way, he was showing me photos of them and just identifying them as different people. Like the real wife and or like fiance, whatever, he showed as his best friend, his best girlfriend. But of course, I never got to meet her, right? The kids looked exactly like her. But he also made it look like they were part of this other relationship that he had with this girl in a different state. And, there's just who knows, who cares, but bottom line is, he had a whole separate life. And it was weird because that was hard for me to understand at first once this all unraveled because he was with me all the time. So when, you have to, I'm going to say all this, all the things that happened, all the things that I realized, because if you are somebody who is dealing with somebody like this, I've been, ever since this has happened, I've wanted to tell this story to be able to be inspiring, to let you know, first of all, here's some signs, here's what to look out for. Because okay, yeah, right? To be able to help you. I always thought if I could help one person, just one, not have to deal with that, because it took years to get over it for me. And if you're a target like myself, it could be similar for you. Some people don't get out as lucky as I did. Some because, well, we'll get into that. So, okay, so it was a total of 7 months before I figured it out. And there's tons of tons of things that happened in between that, like, where I saw his anger come out in really scary ways. He literally threw me out of a moving vehicle at one point. Yeah. And the details of that part of my time, I will be there. There's going to be more communication on this in a different way. I'll just say that for now. So I'm just going to try to keep this as general as possible for now, to just as information for people to inspire and bring awareness about what a romance or a sweetheart scam is. So just going back to that definition really quick, what that is similar to catfishing online, right? So, but the thing with catfishing online is a lot of the times people never get to meet that person. This person was in my life every day. He was staying at my house, and that's why it was like, I had never known about anything like this. And when I started telling this story to people after it had happened, most people don't know that this exists. And this is another reason why I want to get this out, to be able to let more people know and make more awareness around this topic, because it's a thing that happens. He was actually working on at least one other person in tandem with me while he was doing this to me. And that'll come later. That'll explain that in a sec, or later. So, so 7 months, things are progressively getting weirder and weirder. I'm pretty sure he was trying to leave me and out me at a sooner point, but I think he saw how, I think what turned into them just trying to harvest my personal information, because that's what they're black hat hackers. These people are very cyber they know how to hack into anything. And so they'll hack into your computers, they'll hack into your vehicles if you have that ability to have a vehicle like that. And if you do and if you don't, they're going to track you by putting tracking devices on your vehicles. They'll hack into your phones. They'll hack into anything electronic. If you have Internet of Things in your house, anything Wi-Fi, they can hack into, and that's a way that they can either watch and or listen to you. They send people in. They first slowly try to, and when I say, I'm saying they at that point, because it's not just one person. It's a criminal organization of underground network of people. And just one does one is the face to face. And then at times after they start pushing out any family or friends, and they had it easy with me because I had already had my family out of my life at that point. So they were like, bonus. And again, another reason for a big target on me. Um, they'll slowly start to push out any of your friends. And that's what was happening is, and there's a lot of different ways that they can do that, either by harassing, literally interfering with your phone communications, by physically not allowing, by hacking into phones and not letting that communication take place, redirecting the communication. Again, I can speak more on this, but this is just the basic understanding of what this was about. So, um, okay, yeah, 7 months into it, and on Christmas Eve of this particular year, we were coming down a canyon road in the mountains, and it was snowing. It was kind of a snowstorm. It was going from daylight to night, and all of a sudden he looks over at me and he says, "Should I pass this car?" We had both been drinking, and he was driving my car. He hadn't had that many drinks. I definitely had had more at the time, which was why he was driving. But like, he decided, he looks before I was like, oh yeah, right, and then before like we could even like think, he just goes and passes this vehicle, and we're on, just a one way. So one lane this way, one lane coming this way in a canyon, snowing, icy, and becoming dark. Lots of cars coming up. And so that was a little weird, scary, and I've never had anybody do that, nor had I ever done that. But he was a previous, dirt bike racer and like, racer and things like that. So, I thought he was just trying to show off his skills or whatever, me still trying to make excuses for him. He does this thing where he passes cars 4 times before he finally looks at me and goes, "Do you want me to pass this guy?" And it was 4 cars and a big like casino bus, right? Long. And we were just coming up to a curve too. And I was like, yeah, right. And before I could even finish that statement, he just starts to move. And the last thing that I remembered was seeing 2 huge headlights coming at me. And this is where I'm pretty sure I wake up in a different timeline. I've thought about this a lot, and I'm like, life, when I woke up after passing out from shock and everything, life never has been the same for me since that day. Very different. And it's changed even since then, but from that moment. So, I wake up, or I come to, I can't see. And I feel like my eyes are open. So the reason I think I can't see is because I think that there's smoke in the car. So I'm thinking, oh my God, the car's on fire. And I don't remember how we crashed. I don't remember what happened. And I'm trying to scream his name. But you ever have those dreams where you're screaming for like help and help, and you can't get your voice out? That's what was happening. I was trying to scream or call his name out, and I could barely, it was just like, uh, uh, but there was nothing. And so I'm like, oh my God, like I need to, and I couldn't see. So I'm like, either he's passed out or I don't know what's going on. I have no idea. I try to go open my door with my thinking my eyes, can't see, with this right arm, my passenger door. And as I try to move this arm, little did I know, my arm, my humerus, which if you can see it right here, there's a bruise still to this day, 8 to 9 years later. Um, I ended up getting a spiral fracture on my humerus. I end up finding out it was because my arm went up, and I don't remember any of this. My arm went up to try to block the airbag, which ended up actually taking off part of my eyebrow too. But it was potentially the airbag that broke my arm. And so I realized, because part of my arm moved, but the other part didn't. And I was like, oh, and so I I realize, holy shit, like something's wrong. And like, I just feel nauseous. And so I take this other arm to try to like go and grab the door handle to open the door. And obviously, because of what I did right there, and maybe even just the trying to get out, I guess I pass out again as I'm trying to roll out of my vehicle. I come to again. I don't know this until months later when I read the police report, but apparently I had been passed out for like half an hour or something like that. Um, because there's a witness testimony and that comes into play. But so what happens is, I guess I'm going to try to hurry up on this, but this is an interesting story because it really tells a lot about a psychopath, about a narcissist. And I really want this part understood because I had no idea really what a narcissist was up until this point. You'd hear the word and people would call everybody into this person's a narcissist and you're like, oh, well, okay, you're angry at that person. And now I know why people say things like this. But anyways, and this is why I feel like my job is to help inform others. And it's not about labeling, but it is about understanding that if you're a narcissist, you're low vibrational. So it's understanding that this is a low frequency type of person, period. And when you're a high vibrational person of light, what do low vibrational people of no light want? Light. So this is why it makes sense. And where you can go logically like, oh, okay. And this helps take away some of the, the hurt, the pain, the anger, the, the sadness. So he ended up, oh, okay. So when I come to, again, because we were in a canyon, the last time I remembered the mountains being on the right side of me, but who knows where we're at right now because I still can't see. Coming to the second time, still can't see. So now I'm really confused why I can't see. So I'm using this arm. I'm trying to hold my arm like this as best as I can without moving it. And I am still trying to yell his name. Nobody's coming. And I'm just trying to feel for the mountain because it was like mountain road. There was not a lot of shoulder room. And I remember the last time I was, alert and eyes open that there were a lot of cars coming up the canyon. So my fear is I don't want to get hit by a car. You would just, and this brain was all over the place. Again, I'm in hard shock right now. I'm hard sensitive. My pain level is so under the charts. I have no pain level, people. So, yeah. And I'm trying to feel for the side of the mountain. Finally, I do. I feel something. So I'm just kind of staying there. And again, now I'm trying to yell his name. Finally, somebody comes and he says it's him, but grabs the broken arm and literally grabs me right here. And as you can see, this fracture was like it was right there, right? And grabs me like right there. And so, I mean, the worst place to grab. And, as I think that it's him because he says, yeah, I'm here or something. And he's trying to say, we need to get out of here. And I'm like, we need to get out of here? What do you mean? I'm not trying to leave the vehicle. I'm not trying to leave the scene of the accident. I can't say any of this. I'm literally still in that place, like in a nightmare where you can't speak. So, and I'm trying, but nothing is coming out because I keep trying to say, no, no, but he's just pulling me. Well, so after I, go, no, I go, it's broken. It's broken. And he goes, oh, I know. And I remember that clear as day. I can't question him about this at the time because there's so much happening so quickly. But that's what happens is he finally goes, I know, and then grabs me by the other arm and says, come on, we're going. We need to get out of here. And I can't do anything but move with him because again, I still can't see what's going on. Very scary. And so he puts me in the back seat of a vehicle. I can feel that because, and I remember thinking, okay, he's going to sit back with me. Still, no. So no sign of him through this whole part of the accident. Puts me in the back seat all by myself. And I'm wondering whose car is this too, by the way. And then he ends up, I can hear him go sit in front of me. So I'm assuming he's in the front seat. And I can't tell yet if it's passenger or driver. Well, now all of a sudden I hear somebody come in to the, like, the left of me. So now I'm rationalizing, oh, he's in the passenger seat. Whose voice is this in the driver's seat? It's a man's voice. And I hear the dude, the guy I was dating, dating, um, yell to the driver, go, go. And and in my head, I'm thinking, no, no, no. And I'm trying to scream that too. But again, it's not coming out and they're not listening to me. And the guy, you could tell the driver was hesitant. And I was like, oh, good, good, And then you could also, oh, then we all of a sudden heard sirens coming because when the driver wasn't going, the scammer con man, he was getting, I could hear him getting angry, like, come on, just fucking go, or something like that. And that's what kind of made this guy attempt to kind of start to go. And then all of a sudden we hear sirens. And so that's when the guy goes, you know what? There's no way I'm going anymore, because he's smart. He's like, I'm not trying to leave the scene of the accident with the people that the accident is about. Like, what? Where? And I was like, thank God, oh my God, thank God. And, because again, remember, I'm on this probation and, I'm not trying to get myself in more trouble or anything like that. And so, and obviously you don't do that. But see, narcissists will. They'll do anything they need to do to, because they're not guilty of anything. And so the guy decides to not go, which was awesome. Now, at this point, it's interesting because I apparently pass out again. I don't know why, how. The last thing I remember is that scene I just told you in the vehicle, the three of us, the driver finally says, no, I'm not going. We hear the sirens. I wake up again. I come to. I'm in the ambulance, and like the paramedics are trying to use the scissors to rip off my shirt to get to my broken arm. And they see me coming to, and they're like, "Okay, okay, she's up." And they're like, "Hey, we've given you," and they'd given me like Dilaudid or something like that, some pain medicine. And they go, "We need to know how much you drank tonight because we can give you more, but we need to understand how much you drank so that we just ensure that we're being safe for you." So, what had happened is that, the cop, one of the first, sheriff that actually, got to the scene comes in pretty quickly and says, he's questioning me, like, how do you know this guy? And I'm still trying to protect him, like, because he's asking, how do you know him? And I'm thinking, if I say that we're dating, that could potentially get him in more trouble. So I say that we're just friends. And, in my head, I'm thinking it's still not lying because I'm still saying we know him. But look, I'm potentially, trying to, skew the truth to protect this con man, right? Who's literally trying to kill me. And so, the cop says, listen, we fingerprinted the car, and so we know he was driving. Okay, wait. So let me back up. He goes, "Oh, so you're saying you're friends at least?" He goes, "Okay, that's interesting because I want you to understand that he's telling us he does not know you and that he was not driving your car." I remember thinking in my head, I was like, what the fuck? Like, why would he say that? It's so obviously stupid. We're in the middle of nowhere in night, middle of a snowstorm, literally in the middle of nowhere. Like the closest thing was miles away, either direction, So why would somebody just be And I was like, it just didn't make sense. And he's like, but ma'am, we understand that you guys do know each other because we did have time to already get a warrant to fingerprint your vehicle. We saw that his fingerprints are on your driver's side and yours are on the passenger side. So we got all that figured out. And we also got videotape of where you both were. I was like, okay, cool, right on. And he goes, I need you to understand something. You're dating a psychopath. You're dating a narcissist. I recommend you get as far away from this man as possible. He is not safe. He's very dangerous. And I just remember that was the first time that that came to my attention in 7 months. And so I needed to make sure that that part of the story was in a little bit more detail so that you understand that. Because for me, that was the instigating point. Now, did I believe him right away? I wasn't in love with this person already at this point, right? Or so I thought. We had talked about getting married and things like that. And so, um, I'm hearing this going, and then oh, well, no, hold, I'll back up. So he says all this, and then I go, well, what's going to happen to him? He said, well, we're going to be taking him to jail tonight. And I could see him across, because now this is the first time where I can finally see. So this is where it gets explained to me that, yeah, that it was the driver, the airbag, that the stuff inside of it that blinded me, took off my eyebrow, broke my arm, and and definitely hit me in the head. So I'm sure I had some head damage, and I ended up in the hospital that night, and when they're trying to get me all fixed and this and that. Now I have no vehicle. At this point, he definitely had already stolen everything from me at this point. I don't know this yet, but he had been pretending that he didn't have that much money, so I was not just paying for myself and helping me live, I was helping him live. So basically I didn't have that much money at this point. I was living super paycheck to paycheck to be able to afford to pay for me and this guy who was working, or so-called working, but supposedly had to send money to the his kids and things like that, and like like alimony and child support sort of thing. And, got me to feel sorry for him. So, again, saying these things, because if you're hearing a lot of this stuff, just keep it in mind. Okay, so next 3 days, I'm trying to heal on my own. I don't have any food at home, really. I don't have a way to go. Now he's literally pushed out not quite everybody, but pretty much everybody that was in close proximity to me, and I still have yet to reach out to my parents. I still am not in contact with any family members right now, and they don't know where I'm at. Yeah, at this point. So um he's in jail for 3 days, and the prosecution had already put up a no contact between the two of us. We weren't supposed to have contact, and I did not know that. So I let him know that I'm going to come get him. Well, apparently he had set it up to have probably his real partner or whatever come get him, or one of his friends that he was like, not telling me about, um, come get him. Because when I went to go get him, um, I he had said, "Oh, I thought it was going to be somebody else." He was expecting somebody else. He did not think it was going to be me. Because I was able to use his truck to come and get him. That's right. That's how I got it, because his truck would have been at my place, and yeah. Because again, he totaled my car in the accident. And so before I go pick him up, though, the sheriffs come to my place to drop off some paperwork. So they tell me one more time, ma'am, couple of things. After really looking back at this accident and everything, and how he was, again, we need you to understand he is a dangerous man. He's a psychopath. He is a narcissist. We recommend you getting as far away from him as possible, because the way that the accident looks, it's potential that he was trying to kill you in the accident. And this is where now I'm getting this information for the second time, and now my stomach really drops. So after this, I start to kind of do my own little bit of research, where now I'm, going through Like he had left, and I would typically never do stuff like this, but in these types of situations where you have to do your own investigation now, you investigate the shit out of whatever you can get your hands on. So he had left his laptop. It was just 33 into 34. Just wanted to say that when I said that. So he had left his like iPad, a laptop. I think he had his phone on him. But I was able to go into, and at this point, I'm trying to learn how to kind of be, I was savvy enough to be able to, to look into histories like MapQuest histories and back end history. I was finding stuff that was not adding up with what he was saying. Like he had said he had gone to a certain place, and then I'd see on a certain day that it was like, wait a minute, wait, you went to a child care center? I thought your kids are in a different state. Like, why are you going to a child care center? Why are you spending all this time over here where you're saying that your best girlfriend is living and all this stuff? Okay. So my mind is kind of already going, okay. And this is again was triggered because of what these sheriffs had told me. And now I'm going, okay, so I do need to figure something out. And now I'm thinking about all the ways that, all the things that he had done, all the icky, weird things that had happened. And so I go pick him up from jail, and I find out that we're supposed to not be having contact. But again, he's staying with me, So he comes back. He had to go to court the next day, and I told him that I was going to go with him because again, I'm still thinking that we're a thing, and I'm going to support him, and this is good. And when I go into court, the prosecution pulls me aside and is like, same thing that the cop said, like, you need to get away from this guy. He is extremely dangerous. And, I'm just getting warned left and right, like sources like, wake up, and now after knowing that this is what it is, people, like, just listen to what I'm saying, because if any of this resonates with you, run. Just don't even question it. Just leave. Because you're being scammed, you're being taken advantage of, you're being manipulated, you're being gaslit, you're being used, your identity is getting stolen. Because so up to this point, he had stolen, all my documents, all my important documents, social security cards, birth certificates, definitely had broken into all my electronics, was tracking me, phone, laptop, all that kind of stuff. Had already taken over my email accounts, my social media accounts, which that's a whole nother group of people, of potential victims. And that's how that happens. And so that's huge money. And so I start researching hard because I have a broken arm. I can't move. And so while I'm sitting in bed trying to heal, I'm researching so many things. I'm trying to research more about trying to figure out who he truly is, what his life really is. Like, I'm trying to understand, like, is he after me? Or is this just, I kept wanting to think like, oh, this isn't, like, he loves me. He told me he loved me. Why would somebody say that? Well, that's such a naive statement, right? Like, see, and this is what happens when you're raised by narcissists. You don't know what they look like outside of the family. And so you're therefore now it's a much easier target for con men, scammers, narcissists, psychopaths. Okay. I guess I'm at 48 minutes right now, and I know it's getting dark right now. It's probably getting a little hard to see me. I'm going to pause this, and I'm going to have to do a two-parter on this because, like I said, I've gotten you to the part before I tell him and realize who he is. And that part is its own little story in itself, as well as what happens for the next 2.5 years. So I'll definitely be able to get that in a shorter video after this. But anyways, I hope that if anybody is dealing with something like this, like I was saying throughout this whole message, if any of this resonates with you, please, please, please just do some research, back away. Know that you are potentially, being seen as a victim. I'm no longer in that scenario, so I don't consider myself that. I was at one point. um, but I have gotten past that, and I've thrived past that, and I have learned the signs now. And this is why it's so important to me, because one of the first things that I started to study was, why did he come after me? Like, what about me made me such an easy target? And like I was saying, it's because, again, highly sensitive people, empaths are usually trusting, very nice, naive people. Not always, obviously, but some of us are. The ones that have grown up in survival, and maybe that survival place because of the toxic, dysfunctional, emotionally immature, narcissistic parents, family that you grew up with. So this is why I use these terms, is not to label, is to give people like steps and something to see, something like to understand, so that if you are dealing with something like this, you can see it. Because for me, I didn't see this. I didn't understand this. And had I known what I am speaking about right now, obviously I would have been able to avoid all of this. So the point of this is to be able to bring awareness to any of you who might be a potential target for somebody that could be wanting to put you into a type of romance or sweetheart scam, and or with the intention to maybe potentially human traffic you. So there will be a part 2. Thank you so much for listening. If you have up until this point, I send you my love and so much gratitude. Thank you.